Okay, so HMO greetings. Here I say everyone for tuning in. Just going to give people a few minutes or two to get in. If you have any issues with the sound or the images, just let me know in the chat room. Just give me 1 second. I want to make sure people can. Okay. Okay, so your GMO, that means greetings. I'm Odwirafo Kwesi Ranemata Akan, Odwirafo of Akwamuman Amaruka, Etifimudi Akwamu Nation, in North America within Ojiraman, the purified nation, Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people in the Western Hemisphere. So, hold on 1 second. All right. So we wanted to continue with this series. Now we're doing a 7-part series on the nature of the Ba and the Ba'et. It's called the 7 spirits of Ra and Rait, the Creator and Creatress. So when we look in the papyrus of Nejemet, she delineates 7 aspects of the spiritual body of the Creator and Creatress. Just like we have 1 Ba or Ba'et, 1 spirit, the Creator, Ra and Rait have 7 spirits and so forth. And they're directly related to the 7 Kara, which is the ancient Kemeti term. Kemet is the term from ancient Egypt and so forth, but Kemet is the original term, the Black country, Black land, the Black nation and so forth. In the Kemeti language, the term Kara means the spiritual center, a shrine. This is where they get chakra or kakara from and so forth. But there are 7 Ba spirits. Now, first, let me show you this image from our book, just to give some proper context. All right. Okay. So this is in our book, Odwirafo, True Historical Anthology. We've recently released our book, and I want you to see, of course, on the left, you see Ra, a representation of the creator of the universe. And then we have Rait, the creatress of the universe. So it's not just the creator, the gods and the ancestors, it's the creator and the creatress, the goddesses and the gods, the ancestresses and the ancestors. There's a great, there's a balance between male and female. There's the great mother and great father, Amen and Amenet. Then you have Ra and Rait, the creator and creatress. And then you have the deities and the ancestral spirits. This is Ra, this is Rait. This image is from when we were in the temple of Apet Asetu, which is in ancient Kemet, so-called Karnak, in the precinct of Mut, in the temple of Kainsu. You will see this great image of Rait, the creatress, and it's one of the most detailed and elaborate images of Rait anywhere in Kemet. So you have the creator and the creatress. They are the divine living energy surging through and animating all created things in creation, just like solar energy penetrates and permeates all things on earth and so forth. That's the fiery, vital energy that animates you. The spirit of Ra and Rait, the creator and creatress, animates and empowers and vitalizes all created entities in creation. So when you look at the creator and creatress and you visualize the solar energy permeating everything, the spiritual force of that animate, these animate divinities permeate all created things. Now, when they talk about Ra and Rait, we are a microcosm spiritually. Our spirit body comes from the spirit of Ra and Rait. Just like you have air out in the atmosphere, you take a small portion of that and pull it into your lungs to vitalize you. The divine living energy, the life force energy permeating all of creation is Ra and Rait. And you take a portion of that and it takes up residence in your physical body. And that life force energy, that spirit is your Ba. If you're an Afurakani or African male, Black male, is your Ba'et. If you're a female, Afuraitkaitnit, African Black female. So we have a portion of the Creator and Creatress's divine living energy within us that animates us, but it's actually a force in creation. It's not just solar energy. It's a spiritual force that we can communicate with and we can direct. It's a male divinity dwelling within the Afurakani male, African Black male, and some female divinity dwelling, a daughter of Rait, dwelling within the Afuraitkaitnit female, we can expand that force, and that force that dwells within us that's connected to the great mother and great father force, that's the nature of manifestation. So we're doing a 7-part series on this nature of manifestation. So let me bring up that image. And it's important because most people don't talk about that. And when they talk about manifestation, they're talking about misinformation coming from the whites and their offspring. So first, let me show you this image of, and I want to focus on an aspect of it, the UAB PERET aspect of it today. If you look at here on the right side, this is the, she was a queen as well as a priestess, Nejemet. This is her actual mummy, and then they showed a representation of her, a computer representation, but this is her actual mummy. Now, in her papyrus, she delineates, as you can see here, these 7 rows, these 7 names. These are the 7 spirits of Ra and Rait. So just like you have one spirit that animates your body, they say that Ra and Rait have 7, and those 7 spirits govern the 7 energy centers within our body. We have, when you look at the chakra system, which is the kara system in ancient Kemet, you have different shrines in 7 regions. The organs and glands that are connected to those shrines are animated by the life force energy of these 7 spirits. So that's why we have this course. We're doing it every Sunday at 11 a.m. all the way through February and so forth. This week, we're coming up on part 4. If you would like to join this group healing ritual, we do a lecture first on the specific Ba of the week, the nature and function of that divinity, and then we do a ritual susu meditation afterwards. We've done 3 weeks so far. You can get the archives for that on our website, and then we're going to do part 4 this coming Sunday at 11 a.m. You can join in for that, and then part 5 and part 6 and part 7, and you'll have the entire 7-part set. So let's look at those 7, and we want to focus on the UAB PERET for today. All right, so this is the, so these are the 7. So these 7 energy centers animated by, if you look at, imagine 7 pots and so forth, where your glands are in these 7 regions, you have 7 shrines and so forth, and they are illuminated by the Ba spirit of each one. We have the 7 listed. We want to focus on the first one, UAB PERET. We want to focus on that today. Hold on one second. I just want to pull up this image. Okay, so we have that image there, but what you see right here in the section of the flyer, you see the man and woman there in there, they're actually harvesting the grain. This is from a papyrus. They're showing the male and female as ancestresses and ancestors, as ancestor and ancestress in the Sekhet Hetep, the divine field of peace and offerings in the spirit realm and the ancestral realm. And they're harvesting the grain, they're reaping what they're sowing and so forth. And you see them, the male with the sickle that's reaping the grain and so forth. And this is what's happening in the spirit realm, but that happens in life when we reap what we sow. We sow the seeds of consciousness and certain ideas and so forth, and then we reap what we sow. Now, the first Ba, the first spirit within your energy system, and just like your physical body has a number of different organs and glands, and they all work together harmoniously to maintain your physical body, your spirit body is a reflection of that. There are radiant energy centers within your spirit body that all work together as spiritual organs to maintain your spirit body. This is why you have certain inclinations and attraction towards certain individuals and entities, and you have a repulsion from others. There are energic forces that configure your spirit body, and you have a unique configuration. different than anybody else, and you're comprised of a certain configuration of energy, and you're drawn to certain things and you're repelled from other things. And the things that you're drawn to, if you're grounded, are things that will place you in harmony with divine order and thought, intention, and action daily. The things that you are repulsed by, those are things that would otherwise cause you to place yourself out of harmony with order. So we want to know the details. You don't need to know the details of how all of your organs and glands work for them to work. But if you're intelligent and you're mature and you learn how they work and how they interact with one another, if you have a problem, an illness, you'll be able to pinpoint, oh, this is a liver problem, this is a lung problem, this is a pancreas problem, and then you can address it. But if you're like a child and you just don't know anything about your body, if you have a pain, you just have a pain and you have to go to someone who can understand that. The same thing with the spirit body. You don't have to know exactly how the spirit body works in order for you to continue to live, but when you come in contact with problems and you don't know the structure of your spiritual anatomy, then problems persist and sometimes they become exacerbated. So it's part of our culture to understand the nature of the spiritual anatomy, how to live in harmony with order when there are problems, disorder, and we get out of harmony with balance. We can do things ritually to get back in balance. And so this is what we're talking about. And that includes, quote unquote, manifestation of manifesting things that are in harmony with order. So the first one is Ra Peret. You see they're harvesting the seed or reaping what they're sowing. Ra Peret means purification, Wab of Peret, seed. And we're talking about the seed of consciousness. So let's look at it. Hold on one second. Hold on a second. Okay, let me go out of this right quick. Okay, I had the wrong thing up. Hold on a second. Okay. So the first Ba we said, it said Wab Peret. That's the name of that Ba spirit. And when you invoke that spirit within yourself, then you deal with the purification of seed through ritual invocation of the Ba. And you go into meditation, or you have ritual song or ritual dance or ritual chant or ritual movement. There are different ways to go into the spirit realm. Ritual dance is a gateway to the spirit realm. Ritual chant is a gateway to the spirit realm. Ritual prayer is a gateway to the spirit realm. Ritual meditation, susu, is a gateway to the spirit realm. So there are different ways to cross into the spirit realm, engage spiritually, realign yourself in harmony with divine order, and come out of that, grounded, ready to execute your function in the world. Ritual dance, for example, when people are dancing and they spin around, they go into spirit possession and so forth, that's a fiery gateway to get to the spirit realm. Ritual meditation, we call susu, is a more cool gateway to the spirit realm where you're relaxed and so forth. So there are different ways to get to that. Now, so we said the very first Ba spirit, when you invoke that spirit through ritual and so forth, when you invoke that force, whose title is Wa Peret, then the force itself generates the kind of energy that is dispensed upon you to purify your consciousness. That's like blocking out all the negative projections that are clogging your mindset and so forth, purifying that so you can be a clear vessel to receive the messages that come from your nsamanfo, your ancestresses and ancestors, and the abosom, the divinities that govern you. And once you have clarity, then you can make the right decisions. So the name of that spirit is Wa Peret. But what does that mean? In ancient Kemet, Wab means purification. It means to be innocent, guiltless, to be clean, to be purified, to be ceremonially clean, pure or clean, to purify oneself for cleansing, clean, to wash clean, pure, holy, and so forth. That's also one of the titles of Awusi or Asar when he's in all white and he has the white crown and he's mummified and so forth because his body has been cleaned and purified and preserved and crystallized into a mummy. But a mummy is really what we did to crystallize the body. We're turning the physical body into a crystal. And now as a crystal, it's the most potent ancestral shrine to draw the spirit of that ancestor or ancestress back into the physical world so you can communicate with them. That's what we're doing with the mummified body. So one of the titles of Alsar is Wab, Ur, the great purified one and so forth. But Wab means purification. You see the little vessel here with the wavy line coming out. That's a vessel pouring water out. That's pouring libation, ritual purification. What are we purifying? Peret. Meduten Toro, the glyphs show seed. So grain, corn, wheat, field, produce, any kind, grains of any substance, grains, seed, and so forth. That which you place within the earth, and then eventually produce comes forward. That's seed and so forth. Now we're going to switch over. Take this out and we want to go into some more detail about that definition. Okay. So now we look at this notion of Wab, because we're talking about purification. So what is that definition in the language? So the chamber in the temple in which the ceremonies symbolic of the mummification of Alsar were performed, it was commonly called Wabet and so forth. Wab Ur, the great sanctuary, a name of Alsar. You also have, second. Wab, a holy man, a priest, a libationer. There are a certain class of priests and priestesses called the Wab, or purificatory priests and priestesses. Wab on the male side, Wabet on the feminine side. Wab Ah means the great or expansive, chief or priest, the high priest, and so forth. Wabu, those who are ceremonially clean. Wapti, one who's morally pure. Waptiu is a title of the deceased who are spiritually pure, and so forth. Wabet, the chamber in the temple in which the ceremony symbolic of the mummification of Alsar were performed. And in this context, this quote unquote crown, karakara, so-called the crown chakra or crown karakara, that is that chamber that's ceremonially pure. You see the solar disc on the head. That's the quote unquote crown karakara that's shown in the language and culture of Kemet. And let's look back at Ra and Rait just so you can recall and see that. When they showed the crown chakra, we showed the solar disc on the head. And what you see in India and China, different places, these things were stolen and corrupted from ancient Khanid and Kemet. So when you see the solar disc on the head of Ra and the solar disc on the head of Rait, they're not the sun god and sun goddess. Aten and Atenit are the sun god and sun goddess, but Ra and Rait are the divine living energy that created the sun and the various stars and penetrate these solar orbs and stellar orbs and so forth and illuminate them and use them to transmit their divine living energy. So when you see the radiant disc on the head of Ra, the radiant disc on the head of Rait, we have the radiant disc on our head and so forth. That is the crown, kara, crown shrine of so-called chakra and so forth. So that is the quote unquote seed of consciousness that needs to be purified first. So when you invoke Wa Peret and you utilize those terms Wa Peret in meditation or ritual chant or ritual prayer and so forth, you invoke the spirit of Ra and Rait, and that force communicates, sometimes through spirit possession, sometimes through spirit communication, purifies your spirit. Very similar, as we've always said, if you have a child, an infant, and the infant starts crying because they're ready to feed and so forth, the sound vibrations that leave the mouth of the infant move through space, they hit the eardrums of the mother. She's stimulated by those sound vibrations, and then she moves to the infant and dispenses the life-giving milk that will strengthen and fortify and immunize the child. So the child is like a little, a being that's quote unquote praying or sending out a ritual invocation. And then a great being comes, responds to that invocation by releasing fluid that's going to fortify and immunize and empower the child. When we speak sound vibrations through ritual chant and ritual prayer, those sound vibrations move through space. They provoke the energy of a force in nature or an ancestor or ancestress. They return by dispensing energy to us that flows into us, recalibrates our spirit body, and gets us in alignment with divine order. That is the feedback system of ritual that we are directly engaged in, and it's not symbolic. So when we invoke Wa Peret, the first spirit of Ra and Rait, the radiant force in the head region is stimulated. The purification of that begins to take place. Now, I want to pull up that image once again. All right. And so when you engage in that ritual process, and we do this during the ritual, we engage in Susu meditation. We do that in a certain format and so forth. Then people invoke that Ba its spirit. Then a communication happens, an interaction takes place, and then things start to become purified. Just like cleaning debris from, an item or, something, you get rid of the dirt, the debris, and the fullness of the item begins to shine and radiate and so forth. Similar, as we said before, to a wind chime. Once you clean out the wind chime, get all of the dirt and muck out of it and clean it, then the life force energy can surge through it. The air can move through it rapidly and so forth, and a harmonious sound vibration emanates from that chime. When we purify ourselves, that happens when you engage the divinity Wa Peret. You purify the seed. Now your consciousness is clear, and now you can communicate directly with the Great Mother and Great Father Supreme Being, the forces in nature, your ancestresses and ancestors. We're all part of a system of creation and so forth. And you can realign yourself, recalibrate yourself. When you look at the male and female here, the ancestor and ancestress, and they're in the fields and they're reaping what they sowed, or they're harvesting the grain and so forth. This is what we're looking at when we're talking about Wa Peret. Now let's look at the term Peret real quick. There's an aspect of it that we didn't touch on. All right. Okay, so when you see the term Peret right here, so that which comes forth, if you have a seed planted in the ground and comes forth, that's Peret. Pa, which is the explosion, the Ra is the radiant force, that's Peret, to explode and radiate forward, that's Peret coming forth. So seeds come forth and so forth, grain, but it's also the term for posterity. Your progeny are your seeds that come forth. But when you look at the solar disk in the on the head. When the sun sets in the west, that is akin to a seed being planted in the ground. So when you see the sun set in the west, and that you see that the great female divinity Nut swallows the sun and so forth. She gives birth to the sun in the morning. She swallows the sun in the evening. Her face is in the western horizon as she swallows the sun and so forth. So when the sun sets in the west and it goes into the underworld, so to speak, and goes into the quote unquote ground, that's like a seed, peret, being planted in the ground, going in the underworld. And then you pour libation and so forth. And then you have, eventually you have crops that come forward. But when that seed goes into the underworld, it's moving through a process. That solar disk or radiant force in the head region, you see it as the solar disk on the head of Ra and Rait. That is the seed that eventually gets planted, but then it becomes, it sprouts and so forth into the full flowering of a sacred plant and so forth. But that's the connection between the seed, peret, the purification, UAB, that being the title of the Ba spirit, the purification of consciousness. We invoke that spirit itself, whose name is Wa Peret. When you go into meditation and you invoke Wa Peret, that deity, then that spiritual force enters into your spiritual body, purifies your seed, your consciousness, and now you are a receptive vehicle for the divine living energy, as well as the consciousness of Amen and Amenet, the great mother, great father, supreme being. And you can receive that. It's just like if your ears are blocked, if someone is speaking to you, you can't hear what they're saying. If your eyes are closed, you can't see what people are doing. But when you unblock the ears, you open up the eyes and so forth, when you clear your consciousness, you can receive what's being shown and given and taught, and you can use that to realign yourself. Once you do that and you're recalibrated, then you put yourself in position to receive what you're supposed to receive in harmony with divine order. And that is the nature of manifestation. Manifestation is not just visualizing what you want and trying to get people to do things and manipulate circumstances or lower level energy to make things happen the way you desire it in a lustful fashion. That's silly and that's Eurocentric. There's a divine order that governs creation. When we operate in harmony with that divine order and put ourselves in position to receive what we need to receive from the forces of nature, then we do that. You can create disorder and eventually it's going to catch up with you because there are agents in creation that will render that quote unquote karma on you. But with regard to reality and manifestation for real, you invoke your own Ba, your own Bayat, your own spirit. You connect that energy with the great Ba, the great Bayat, Creator and Creatress, Ra and Rait. There's an open channel of communication, no different than if you were holding your breath and then you open your mouth and took a deep breath. You connected the air in your lungs, the little pocket of air, to the great air that surrounds the entire planet. And now there's a clear exchange and you're being vitalized. The Ba spirit within you, the Ba'et spirit within you is an Afurakani man, Afurakani woman, that divine radiant force within you that animates you and gives you power to move and walk and act and so forth, that solar fire, where you can connect that ritually to the great Ba and Ba'et, which is Ra and Rait, the Creator and Creatress. When that link is made, just like opening your mouth and the air is linked from here to outside, when that link of your divine living energy, your Ba, your spirit, your Ba, your spirit, is linked ritually through ritual prayer, ritual song, ritual dance, ritual meditation to the great spirit Ra and Rait, and through that energic link, there's a transfer. So spirit possession happens, spirit communication happens, replenishment of your spirit body happens and so forth. And just like the mother dispensing milk, they dispense that energy that we can recalibrate ourselves with. We can become conscious of things we need to know. We can put ourselves in position to do what we need to do. This is what manifestation in the true sense really talks about. Okay. Okay, let me take that down. So that's what we wanted to focus on today. I just wanted to give a short presentation. I want you to see that when you go to you're going to see this on the page. Let me pull this back up. Sunday at 11 a.m. This is what we're going to be doing. We're going to do the ritual process we do the presentation, and then we get to the ritual process. So we've been doing this for a few weeks. We're going to go every week. We do one of the boss spirits. We do an entire 1-hour presentation to go into detail about the linguistics, the cosmology, and so forth of this nature of each boss spirit. And then after we do that, we have a susu, which is a meditation ritual, group healing ritual, and so forth. We engage in that. And then after the meditation piece is over, then we discuss the experiences people had. So when you look on our site, you will see how to register for that, and also to get the previous weeks. So if you missed the previous weeks, if you missed par 1, 2, and 3, we're going to come back with par 4 this Sunday at 11 a.m. This is the website, so you'll see it. So we're going to start with par 4 this Sunday. Prior to par 4, you can go to the website, you can register. It's for Afuraitkaitnit people, African Black people exclusively, of course. But you can register and you will get access to parts 1, 2, and 3. The first 3 boss spirits. You get the lecture and the ritual meditation that we did. You can review that. So by the time you get to Sunday and we're doing part 4, you'll be caught up. So when you go to this page, so this is the actual, flyer group healing ritual Sundays through February 8th. It's going to actually be pushed to February 15th and so forth. Bau, which is plural, 7 spirits of Ra and Rait. So let me show you the page itself. And if you have any questions, of course, you can post them in the chat room. But I want you to see the page and see where you can go and, register now. Okay, so let's get out of this. Okay, so on our Square site, on our webpage, when you scroll down, you'll see a few things. This one, the Bao, 7 Spirits of Ra and Rait, that is the one that you click on. And when you click on that, you'll see that's the flyer. You'll see the entire description and so forth. And then we will send you the previous 3 sessions, 3 weeks and so forth. And you will, you'll get all of that. So you can watch those videos, watch those meditations and so forth. You can practice the meditations for those first 3 boss spirits and so forth. So when you get to part 4 this week, you'll be in, you'll be in alignment. Now, if you also look on the page, you'll see a couple of other things. You'll see our book here, Odwirafo. That image from Ra and Rait, that's from our book. So we recently released our book, Odwirafo, True Historical Anthology. It's a 600-page book, 8.5 by 11, encyclopedia size, full color. And you'll see that we have, just so you can see it real quick. So for example, that's the section. Hold on a second, it's a little blurry. In fact, let me take this down. So that's the section, for example, talking about Jesus is a fictional character who never existed of any form, of any race. We also talk about how Muhammad never existed, how he was manufactured, how Allah and Yahweh are fictional characters who were manufactured. Buddha is a fictional character and so forth. So when you look at our book, it's actually 12 of our books in one volume. I published 31 books so far. I took 12 of them that deal with true historical cosmology, put them together in one large volume. So you'll see that on the page, on the Odwirafo Square page, you can order the book, and we have an option. You can pay $13 to order, and then you pay the rest over time. Hold on a second. Okay, so you have the book is $44 plus shipping, so you can put a down payment of $13, and then you can pay the other $13 payments, the other 3 payments over time over the next couple of months. So when you click on this page, click on the Odwirafo page, you'll see the book, you'll see the description, and then when you check out, there's an option to pay in 4. You check Afterpay, and then you can pay in 4. So we have that. And also for those of you who are interested in meditation, which we call Susu, we have our Susu Meditation Instructor Certification course, where it's a 4-week online course that begins next week, next Tuesday, where you can be certified to conduct Susu. That's the ancient term for meditation. Thousands of years before India, we were already practicing that in Afuraitkaitnit, Africa, and we took that practice into India when we migrated. The whites and offspring came later and began to corrupt the practice, but we're talking about the original. So Susu, meditation. We certify people so you can be certified with a professional credential, so you can go into businesses, schools, organizations, and so forth, conduct Susu or meditation sessions for their employees or their students, or whatever it is, members. And people typically pay $100 to $200 per session for you to conduct like a 20-minute session or a half-an-hour session. So when you have the credential, the professional credential, you can utilize that to generate income for yourself and also empower our people. We've certified 57 people so far, and they are using that credential all over the country in different parts of the world, as a matter of fact. Our people only, of course, Black people specifically, but all over this country and different parts of the world, they've been certified and they're using that credential to go out, conduct meditation sessions, help the recalibration and healing of our people, but also getting paid to do so. So if you want to start that process, it's a 4-week course. The live course begins next Tuesday. And it's, next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m., and then it's 4 Wednesdays, and you complete the course and you receive your certificate. If you can't come live, we also have the archived version for 50% off. We have payment plans, available. You can put $49 down and then pay monthly. But the archived version is 50% off, and you can get the archived version and go through the 4 weekly sessions in a self-paced, self-study fashion. After you go through all 4 sessions from the 4 weeks and download the books and go through everything, then we set up a Zoom session so we can, go over the information, make sure everything is understood clearly, and then we'll send you your certification. And then you'll be certified with that professional credential. So if you want to, do it live, starts next Wednesday, or if you want to do it self-study, if you can't do live, either way, when you go to the page, you'll see that. So that is that piece right there. And there's one more that we put up recently, or we reposted recently. And you see these 2 right here. It says Medut Nsoro. And Medut Nsoro means the words or symbols. Medut Nsoro, divine. Some people say Medu Necher, but it's Medut Nsoro. That's the reading and writing, the language and the script, the hieroglyphs of ancient Kemet. So 2-part course, parts 1 and part 2 and so forth. And what we do is we go through, there's a book called Let the Ancestors Speak. It is a 271-page book on the writing and the grammar of the Medut Nsoro, the hieroglyphs and so forth. So we go through that entire 271-page book. It took 6 weeks to go through the first half of the book and 6 weeks to go through the second half of the book. But when you go through that, you learn how to read and write the Medut Nsoro, the language and hieroglyphs of Kemet. And we go further than what an Egyptologist or some other class online talking about how to read the hieroglyphs and so forth, because we compare them with the ancient Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit languages of today. So we can look at the terms in ancient Kemet and what the terms mean and the names of the deities and what they mean and so forth in the ancient language. But in the Akan language, for example, we've published a number of books dealing with this. We have the same words with the same meanings, the same deities with the same names today as practicing the religion today as Akan people as it was in ancient Kemet. So you have the same deity that an Akan person is worshiping now and using the same language. For example, the term Ma means to grant or to give in the Akan language. Ma means to grant or to give in the language of ancient Kemet. Jira means to purify in the language of the Akan people. Jira means to purify in the language of Kemet. Ka means to speak, to say, to utter, or to tell in the Akan language. Ka means to speak, to say, to tell, to utter in the language of Kemet. So we have even kasa kasa means foolish chatter in the Akan language. Kasa kasa means foolish chatter in the language of Kemet. So we can make the comparisons of the living languages of today in Afuraitkaitnit, Africa, even into the Hoodoo tradition in North America and so forth, the terms that we use like mojo and jackball and things like that. You'll find those in the Akan language, and you'll find them in the language of ancient Kemet. So there's a direct through line from ancient Kanit and Kemet, Nubian Egypt, to West Afuraitkaitnit, Ghana and Ivory Coast, into North America in the Hoodoo tradition, which is the Akan tradition. So we can give those kinds of links to prove what the words really mean, because we still speak them every day. Where Egyptologists, they can't give you that. So we give you the same things that you would learn in a class online about how to read and write the hieroglyphs, but we give you more than that. So part 1 is 6 weeks, part 2 is 6 weeks, so they're archived now, so there's a 6-week session, and then a second 6-week session. The video archives are available. You get the free book download and so forth. And the course itself, one of the reasons we put it out is because people were charging hundreds of dollars to teach people how to read and write the language on a basic level. Our course is $15 for part 1 and $15 for part 2. And if you want to order both of them together as a bundle, it's just $20. So you get the course for $20, the full course. You get the 271-page book on the reading and writing of the language. And let me go back and show that right quick. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Just so you can see the book. So you know what you're actually dealing with. All right. So when you scroll down, you'll see the flyer, but this is the book right here that the ancestors speak, Moving the Veil of Mysticism from Medu Neter, by the brother. He's an ancestor now, Ankh Ra, but it's a very thorough book for beginning and intermediate advanced classes and, of the language and so forth. So when you get this text and it becomes a reference for you, you can go to any text in Kemet and you can utilize this text so you can help and translate that. And one of the important things about that, and we've talked about this in a previous session, for us, it's not just learning the language. It's not just something that's intriguing. And let me show you exactly why. Let me pull this up for you. Wasn't planning to go into this today, but I just want you to see the imagery. Okay. So just to give you an example of what we're talking about, it's not just, some intellectual exercise where we're just, reading symbols and sounding, quote unquote, deep or something like that. Is beyond it for us. So here's a set of Adinkra symbols in the Akan culture, which also exist in the Medut and Toro, the hieroglyphs of Kemet. So when you see the Adinkra symbols in Akan culture, you'll see that they exist in the set of symbols in Kemet as well. and we compare them with cymatics. So cymatics is this process whereby they play certain musical tones, and the difference between, tones, D and E and F and G and all of that, are the rates of vibration. So different sound vibrations, different rates of vibration and so forth generate different tones, high tones and low tones, and everything in between. But when they play those different sets of sound vibrations and it affects water, those sound vibrations generate certain geometrical patterns in water, and then they capture it. It's no different than if you take a stone and throw it in water and it hits the middle, and then you have a perfect set of rings that come out, flow out concentric rings from that center point, and they're perfectly geometrically structured and so forth. That's the nature of creation. When you send out sound vibrations and it affects water, it generates a certain geometric patterns, and each tone, because they are configured, there's a configuration of different vibrations, they generate different images. Here you see the images taken with a digital camera on when tones are played and the water responds. This is what happens. Kind of like snowflakes have perfect geometric patterns and so forth. Those same geometric kinds of patterns show up through the tones in the water. So if you look at them, on the right you have D1. This is the image that's generated when D1 is played and is captured. The vibrations are captured by water. E1, same thing, F1, G, C, and so forth. So the different sounds generate different geometric patterns in creation. If you look at the internal structure of each one of these patterns, you will see these sacred akan adinkra symbols showing up. So you see the internal structure of E1, that is the Nyamedria sign in akan. You look at the internal structure of F1, that's the Anansi Ntontine structure amongst the akan. So you look at the internal structure of each one of these, you'll see where we get these Adinkra symbols in akan culture. What's important about that is we don't just make up symbols and just draw them and say, oh, we made a pretty symbol, we're going to call it this. The symbols are literally shrines for the deities. A specific geometric form generates a specific configuration of energy that matches a force of nature, and they are drawn to that space to take up residence in that space, and we communicate with them directly, no different than if you call somebody and you set out a chair for them to come to your house and they come sit down in the chair, and then you communicate with them. The chair that we set out or the throne we set out are specific geometric forms or patterns or quote unquote symbols. In our Akan culture, they're called Adinkra. In ancient Kemet, they're called Medut, Toro, the hieroglyphs and so forth. When we use these symbols in ritual, they are magnets for the ancestresses and ancestors, as well as the deities themselves, to come to that ritual space, sit with us, take up residence in that space temporarily so we can communicate directly with them. No different than if you called your great-great-grandparent to come to your house. They came inside, you had somewhere to sit, you fed them, you gave them an offering and so forth, and you communed with them, and they gave you their wisdom on how to heal illnesses with certain medicines and so forth, or healed you. We do the same thing when we invoke the Abosom, the deities, evoke the Nsamafo, the ancestral spirits. And one of the ways we do that is through the symbols. We put them on the shrine, put them in the ritual space and so forth. We engage in ritual invocation, and the spirits come down and take up residence in these spaces. So when we're studying the Medut and Toto, the hieroglyphs, it's a religious practice. It's not just intellectual. We learn to use these symbols and read and write them, but we also use them in ritual to draw the forces of nature to us and our ancestresses and ancestors to us, so we can recalibrate and get in harmony with divine order. That's always the purpose. So in that context, so when we're talking about, hold on a second. Okay. So when we're talking about this right here, pull it back to the page. Okay, so when we're talking about the Medut Toro courses, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about studying, but also utilizing that study for spiritual cultivation, ritual practice, spiritual cultivation. That's why we study the language of Kemet. It's not just intellectual. So you can take the Part 1 if you want to check out Part 1. It's only $15. You do get the free book download, that 271-page book, a very thorough book and so forth. So you can do that. And then if you like that and you go through all the 6 sessions, then you can order Part 2 and you can go through it and you would have gone through the entire book. Or if you want to order both of them at the same time, it's only $20 for the bundle and you get both 6-week sessions plus the book and so forth. You can do it either way. Okay, question. What about, in the chat room, what about the Sankofa Adinkra, and is it related to Mercury? Said, do all the Abosom have Adinkras? Yes, all of the Abosom, all the forces in nature. In Akan culture, the deities, the goddesses and gods, the spirits that animate the sun and moon and earth mother and rivers and atmosphere are called the Abosom. In Yoruba, they're called the Orisha. In Ewe, in Togo and Benin, they're called the Vodun. In ancient Kemet, they're the Ntoru and Ntoru too. This is where we get Ntoro from. But we use Ntoro as a name for deities in Akan as well. And in Ewe, they say Toro and Trowo. We say Ntoro in Akan, and Ewe, they say Trowo. In ancient Kemet, they say Ntoro. Same term. But yes, all of the deities have their own Adinkra symbols or sacred symbols, because if a spiritual force moves through space, the nature of the energic configuration of that force, whether it's a fire divinity, a water divinity, an air divinity, there's different rates of vibration. Just by virtue of the fact that they're moving through space, they generate a specific geometric form. We capture that, that becomes the shrine, and then it's a magnet for them. That's the technology of it. But when you talk about the Sankofa symbol, actually we wrote a whole book on the Sankofa symbol. So let me pull that up for you. And the divinity represented by that. And I'll just show you a couple of images from that. Hold on a second. All right. Okay, so this is the book itself. And let me click on it. So it's called Sankofa Tahuti, Sankofa Fa and Ifa, the male divinity of divine wisdom and divination, and Akan and Ewe and Yoruba and, Kemet and so forth. So the Sankofa symbol, Tahuti, one of his titles in ancient Kemet, the deity of divine wisdom, the male deity of divine wisdom, one of his titles in ancient Kemet, is Tahuti, but it's also Fa or Fant. The N is nasal, so it's Fant, Fant. And this is why in Yoruba he's called Ifa, as well as Odumila. In Vodun he's called Fa. In Igbo he's called Afa, and so forth, because you have that. Now, in Akan is Sankofa. The Sankofa bird is the bird of Tahuti, the Hapwi bird, so-called ibis and so forth. That same symbol you see the symbol here? That's the same symbol you see here. Now, and of course, in the Hoodoo tradition, and Akan people in North America, when you look at the iron gates all over America, wherever we were enslaved, you will find Adinkra symbols in the ironworks, because they didn't just enslave us on plantations. They enslaved us. We were iron workers. We knew how to do that, and we incorporated our Adinkra symbols. There are hundreds of Adinkra symbols. You go all over the South, North, wherever Black people were enslaved, the ones who were doing the ironworks, you will see that they incorporated Adinkra symbols to preserve our traditions, but also to invoke divinities. So this is the Sankofa bird in Akan. This is the Sankofa bird. It's originally the Habwi bird and so forth. But then we get into a little bit more detailed information. We talk about him being called Fa. It's really FNT, Fanti, or Fant, and that becomes Fant, nasal Fant, the nasal N, Fang, which is Fant, and becomes Afa, Ifa, Fa, and so forth. But he works in alignment with Het Heru, as well as Seshat, the female divinity of divine order or divine wisdom. Tahuti is the male scribe. Seshat is the female scribe. She's the female force of divine wisdom. He's the male force of divine wisdom. They are counterparts. When you look at the Sankofa bird, that symbol is actually two of the Sankofa birds reaching back and grabbing the egg in the mouth and so forth. It's a sacred symbol with regard to that. Reaching backwards in the past to grab from the ancestral past to solve your issues in the present. Bird is reaching backwards, looking backwards to the past and grabbing the egg, which represents the ancestor or ancestors who will return to be reborn once again, reincarnated through Bebra, the akom term for reincarnation. So you have two of the birds, Tahuti and Seshat, stylized in this symbol, these two birds reaching back. But where does that come from? If you see the fallopian tubes, they're reaching back and grabbing the ovary where the egg is going to come out, and that egg is going to house an ancestral spirit, which is the one from the past that is now going to come and be born into the future once again and so forth. That's what you're looking at. But if you look at this structure, it is a sanctuary governed by the divinity Het Heru. She governs the planet Venus. She's called Afia or Afua in Akan. She's Oshun in Yoruba, Het Heru in Nodjmet, Erzuli in Vodun. This is her face, the face with the cow's ears and so forth. This is the Sankofa symbol. And here's the connection. Her sacred animal totem is the Kayat, the cow. If you look at the cow's face, right here with the two horns, that is the face that is in the womb of the woman and so forth. Het Heru governs the fallopian tubes. The Het means house, and Heru means falcon. The Het Heru, or the house of the falcon, is the house of the Ba spirit, the bird, and that is the fallopian tubes. That is the house that the ovum is going to go into and get, fertilized in her Het, in her fallopian tubes. That's the house of Heru and so forth. And then it's going to lodge into the womb, the uterus, which is governed by Aset. But when you see her face and you see the cow's ears, that's her sacred animal totem. You see the cow itself. That cow face is inside the womb of every Afuraitkaitnit woman. That is the sanctuary of Het Heru. And when you see the sacred symbolism of Het Heru from pre-dynastic Kemet all the way through, this is what we're looking at. And the link between Tahuti and Seshat, the male and female force of divine wisdom, and Het Heru is this. Here you have the sovereign inside the sacred tree, and he's been given his divine function, or quote unquote destiny, and his name is written on one of the leaves and so forth, and who he's going to be and what his role is in creation and all of that. That happens with every one of us. When we're a spirit that enters into the womb, in the bush and so forth, inside of the womb of the woman in the bush and so forth, and the male and female force of divine wisdom tell us what our divine function is going to be and who we're coming to world to be and what our name should be and all these things and so forth. We have Tahuti and Seshat in the spiritual womb, the sanctuary of Het Heru, that Sankofa symbol and so forth, fallopian tubes and all that. They're right there, letting that forthcoming ancestor, ancestress know what their role in creation is. So that's the link. And here Tahuti and Seshat, and we show them the sacred palm tree in Akan, the sacred palm tree in Yoruba, the sacred palm tree in Vodun, the sacred palm tree in Nodjmet. We go through all of that in this book, showing that it's the same sacred palm frond that Tahuti and Seshat are holding as scribes and so forth. Well, the palm frond and the palm tree is a tree of divination in Akan, in Vodun, in Ewe, in Yoruba, and in Nodjmet. And we show that in each one of these traditions. We show the Fa, we show Ifa, and so forth, and all these different things. Now, And the final part is so that's the Yoruba, Dafa, divination and so forth, with palm nuts, Ikin. You have Tahuti and Heteru, and the relationship between Tahuti and Heteru in ancient Kemet is the same as Orumila and Oshun and Yoruba and so forth. So, now, and then we also show the relationship of Tahuti and Anan, the sacred, monkey, animal totem divinity. He's also called Ma'ah, the little monkey on top of the scale of balance and so forth. And that's him. And that is the male divinity, Ma'ah. And you see him at the equilibrium point of the scale of Ma'at. And he's shown as a monkey, as an assistant of the great divinity of divine wisdom in the Akan tradition. He's a little monkey who's the assistant of the high priest, the Abu Somfo in Akan tradition and so forth. So he shows the same entity with the same sculpture, statuary. He has the sacred divination vessel with the eye of Heru floating above it, proffering it to Tahuti. That same divination vessel of the monkey, offering it to the high priest you find in the shrines of the Akan people. This is an Akan sacred shrine of the Mara, the monkey, who's the assistant to the high priest with the divination bow, just like you find in ancient Kemet, the monkey who's the assistant to the high priest, divine wisdom, with the divination vessel and so forth. And that is the male divinity, Ma'ah, who's the counterpart to the female divinity, Ma'at. Hold on one second. So you see, this is the male deity, Ma'ah, counterpart to the female divinity, Ma'at. And so this particular book, you will find that book is contained within our book, Odwirafo, our 600-page book, which you find on the website as well. As you can see, it's actually this one right here. So I took 12 of the books that I've published. I published 31 books so far. I took 12 of them, combined them all in one big 600-page volume. You see it's 8.5 by 11, encyclopedia size. And what you were just looking at is in this book. So when you order this book, you'll have that book as well as 11 other books all in one. And in fact, we have a special on that, a special on this book. So if you order the book via look on the page right here, the link that you see on the screen, for our followers, it's automatically 30% off. So on Amazon, the book costs more. It's $59.95 on Amazon. It's 600 pages, encyclopedia size, full color. Amazon takes 60% from all booksellers. Everybody, anybody who sells a book on Amazon. If you sold a book for $10 on Amazon, you wrote a book, Amazon's going to take $6 and give you $4. And they're also going to take off some for printing, and then you have a little bit less than $4 in profit. So because of that, most booksellers, they sell their books on Amazon, but if you go to their website and get it directly from them, they can sell it cheaper. So it's $59.95 on Amazon, as you'll see. On our website, it's $44 plus shipping. Shipping is $8. So it's $44 plus shipping. But if you go to the page, we have an option with Afterpay where you can just pay $13 today and place the order. And then over time, the other four $13 payments, which is $52, which is $44 plus $8 shipping. But the first $13 payment you pay today and you place the order for the book. And then over time, you pay the Afterpay platform $13 every few weeks until the 3 payments are paid off. So let me show you that. Hold on one second. Okay. In fact, let me just do it this way. Okay. So yeah. So when you go to the page, you'll see the Odwirafo book there. Click on that, and you'll see when you go to checkout, you can just choose Afterpay, and you'll, you have that option. And in fact, with Afterpay, that's an automatic option for our site. So even if you want to sign up for the Susu course, for example, so you want to sign up for the Susu course and you want to get, certified as a meditation or Susu instructor, 4-week course. The next live 4-week course starts next Wednesday. But if you want to do the archive course, because you can't do live, and it's, like we said, it's 50% off. When you sign up, if you want to do the payment plan option, you can do that. But Afterpay is still an option in that as well. So if you wanted to do the payment plan option and just put $49 down and, pay monthly $49, you can do it that way. Or you can, say if you wanted to do the, let's say you wanted to do the archived course. The archive course is $199. You can either pay the $199, or when you go to checkout, Afterpay will say, do you want to split this up into 4 payments of $50? You could do it that way. Or if you want to just, start off with the $49 payment or $99 payment, and you could do a monthly installment. And for you all, since you're subscribers, the regular course is $400, $399 for the 4-week course. All the books are included and so forth, and that is your certification, professional certification. For subscribers, it's actually $299. So when you look on the list, you'll see it says for subscribers or members, it says $299. So you can get the course for $299. You can pay it up front, or if you want to put $99 down and then pay the other $99 over the next couple of months. By the time you finish the 4-week course and you have your credential, we just sent out an email today or a few days ago. One of our students who got his certification within the first few weeks, he got his first client. He sent me an email. He said, hey, I got my first client. Typically, most clients will pay you $100 or $200 to conduct a session, with their youth in a school or with their employees if they're having workshops in a breakout session. And they want to break the ice, and they're like, we're going to do a mindfulness meditation first, and here's this person, they're going to come and do it. Or if you go to a human services organization, that they have group therapy every Friday, and the therapist with his group says, hey, we're going to have somebody come in today. It's a little bit different. We're going to do like a 15-minute mindfulness meditation session so you all can reduce anxiety and be more focused. You come in and conduct that for them. They usually pay $100 or $200. So within your first gig, you pay off half of the class. And the second gig, if you do it 2 weeks in a row, you pay for your class, and everything after that is, income. And some people do it part-time, some people do it full-time. They get a business one on a Monday, a school on a Wednesday, and a human services organization on a Thursday. They generate $400 or $500 a week and so forth. And they can do that, full-time. Work for about 7 or 8 hours a week conducting these sessions. And that's enough to, it's a full-time piece. So, put the link there. Whether you want to take the course, you can do the Afterpay with that. If you want to take the Meduten Total course, parts 1 and parts 2, $15 each, or $20 for the bundle. And again, this Sunday coming up, we're doing part 4 of Bow the 7 Spirits of Ra and Rait. So when you register here, this is donation-based. When we do group healing rituals, they're donation-based. So, you can pay what you want and so forth. The book downloads are free and so forth. But when you register here, we will send you week 1, week 2, and week 3. So you'll have those sessions to study from, meditation sessions as well. You can do them. So you'll be caught up. So when you get to Sunday and we do part 4, you'll be caught up. Okay. Okay, so just a couple more questions in the chat room, and then we're gonna break. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Hold on 1 second. Oh, and yet I'll say we thank you to the person who reached out about they purchased the book for the Odwirafo book, the 600-page book as a gift to someone, and it helped really transform them. So we sent out an email about that earlier this week. That's one thing that we need to get back to. And I heard somebody on a podcast talking about this, get back to giving, when people are giving gifts to someone, giving them a book. A young person as well as people who are going through something, as adults. And now, therapy is a big popular thing in the Black community because podcasters are talking about it and so forth. The original therapists are the priests and priestesses of our ancestral religious practices, the hoodoo man, hoodoo woman, juju man, juju woman. Even the term therapy or therapist and therapy comes from Chedep. Chedep came corrupted into Thedep and therapy and so forth. Chedep and Chedepit are a male and female class of priest and priestess in ancient Kemet. We did a whole broadcast on that. But the Chedep and the Chedepit is a certain class of priest or priestess. So they're healers. Some deal with medicine. Some deal with, ritual practices to realign, which is real therapy and so forth. So now that people are talking about therapy and, realigning themselves spiritually, one of the best ways to do that when they get a book that deals with truth, truth and balance. When you incorporate truth, then you begin to rebalance yourself. You repel misinformation, things that cause tension or frustration or disalignment within you. So incorporating truth in and of itself is a healing practice. So people are starting to gift the book. So they order the book, pay $13 down, get the book and gift it to somebody. And that's much better than giving them some, something with some commercial European's name or label on it. All right. Okay. So the group Fanti and Akom related to as Tahuti, Fanti, or is not. Actually, yes. So in the book dealing with hoodoo, we actually mentioned that because there's a form talking about Fant, and then there's another form, Shant. So Fant and Shant in our ancient Kemet is Fanti and Shanti, or Santi and Akan, and these are two major Akan subgroups. We have the Akan ethnic group, which is the majority ethnic group in Ghana, the majority ethnic group in neighboring Ivory Coast. It's about 26 million Akan people in West Afuraitkaitnit, Africa, one of the largest groups on the continent, ethnic groups, and one of the largest from whom we were stolen and brought into North America. So just like there in North America, millions of Black people in North America, many of them are Yoruba, many of them are from the Congo, many of them are Gola and Kisi, which became Gullah and Geechee. But many of them, like myself and others, are Akan, and we preserved Akan ancestral religion as the Hoodoo tradition. Hoodoo is an Akan word, Undu. So yes, but the Fanti and Ashanti titles in the book, when we show that in the book, is directly related to the Fanti and Ashanti ethnic group. Okay. Okay, you said in the chat room, time to get the books I need to research the Adinkra for Yao. Now, thank you for the knowledge. Yeah, so we mentioned that we talked about Ya and Yao. Ya is a name for the female divinity Wachet in ancient Kemet. She's Oya in Yoruba. She's Wachet in ancient Kemet. She's Avejida in Vodun. And she's Ya, the Abosom Ya, the goddess Ya in Akan. And her Adinkra symbol is the Aya Adinkra symbol, which is the fern, which has to do with, independence and resilience and power and, all of that. So we talk about that. But yes, it's a Adinkra symbol for each one of the, in fact, more than one for each one of the divinities. Okay, let me see. You said, thank you. I learned so much from you every video. Okay, Midase, we appreciate that. Oh, so you did respond to the, okay, I didn't show this as well because I remember the response you made here. Okay. These are the other two things. I forgot to mention this. So, and then we'll wrap it up. But okay, so the Susu course is 4 weeks. You get, as we said, you get, you get your credential. You have your professional credential. You can take that to any business in this country, anywhere else, and you're certified to conduct meditation sessions, and you can get paid for that. And most organizations, to satisfy a funding source so they can cut a check for you, all they need to see is an official certificate, and we have that certification process. And if they need to reach out to us to, prove that you're actually certified and legitimize that, we can do that. But that's the 4-week course, and you can do the archived one if you want to. Now, the other one, you see Nimdie Sim. Nimdie Sim is our bachelor's degree program. And just so you can see in a quick image, I'm going to show you this image. We, just like the Meduten Toro courses, part 1 and part 2, each one was 6 weeks. Those are 2 of our courses that we did, a while back. In total, just like I published 31 books, and this volume is number 32, but I published 31 books in total. We don't just have the Meduten Toro courses, which are 2 of them. Overall, we curated over the number of years 42 online courses. Now, the first book I published was in 12,998, so-called December of 1997. The Ubin Shang book, that was the first book I published 28 years ago. And since then, we published 31 books. So, but over the past number of years, especially right before the pandemic, we started teaching these courses formally. We have 42 online courses. If you scroll down, this is an image of the collage of those 42 online courses. 2 of them are the Meduten Toro courses we just showed you. But hold on 1 second. Just give me a second right here. All right. So because of that, we have our Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy program, degree program. So it's a 42-week program. You can do it in less than 42 weeks. You can schedule it that way, but in general, it's 42 weeks. It just depends on the person and their schedule and so forth. But it's based on those 42 courses, and it's a self-study thing. And then when you go through an entire course, self-study, then we set up a Zoom. We go over the information, test it, make sure you understand it. Then you go to the next course, and you end up going through all 42 of our courses. Most universities, when they have a degree in philosophy, bachelor's degree, it's between 40 and 42 courses you have to take total to get a bachelor's degree in philosophy. Once we reached our 42nd course and we were teaching these different things and so forth, then we put together our degree in philosophy, bachelor's degree in philosophy, and akom is called Nimdie Sim. So your bachelor's degree will say Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, and it will also say Nimdie Sim. And we have that, and you go through all 42 courses. Of course, we show you the kinds of things that they teach, but we go into, of course, more detail because Greek mythology is nonsense and Eurocentric mythology and philosophy is nonsense, and we're teaching real philosophy that we still base our lives on. Nobody's basing their life on Greek mythology at this point. Europeans are not doing that because it was nonsense. And the same thing with different philosophies of the Greeks and Romans. Most of it they're not basing their lives on. So, but we have the real thing. But in addition to that, we don't just, hold on 1 second. We don't just philosophize. That's not important to us. We show you, just so you can see this, we show you exactly, we have methods to show you how you can immediately use the degree to actually generate income perpetually. And we have a long list of opportunities, and you'll see this on the page. Edupreneurship, paid opportunities available with Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, NIMDA-SM degree. Whether you went to human services organizations, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, sitting with them in group therapy, and teaching certain information that helps to empower them, women's shelters and family shelters. Then you have corporations who have MLK holiday, Black History Month, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, Black August, Kwanzaa, all these different things. And they say, do you know anybody who has a expertise in this area that we can, we have to pay somebody. We want somebody with expertise. They say, well, this person, we have a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree in Afurakani, African culture and philosophy. They'll bring you out and do a presentation at MLK celebration at a job or some cultural organization, Black History Month, all month, Kwanzaa, Juneteenth, all throughout the year, there are events that people will pay you to come and speak to their employees or their event or whatever. Every single month, you can utilize your degree, your Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy degree, to generate hundreds of dollars and so forth. And then you can, establish your own, host your own events. But whether it's human services organizations, we also have, of course, African-centered bookstores, businesses, organizations, conferences, cultural events, spiritual events, study groups. So people will, have you come out. Hold on a second. Okay, people will have you come out and say, hey, can you come out and speak on, the origin of the term Africa? We have that in our book. The origin of the fact that Ankh is the origin of the term yoga and Karakara is the origin of the term chakra in ancient Kemet. We wrote a whole book about Ankh, the origin of the term yoga, Karakasa, origin nature of the chakra, and that book is included in this book. You could do a whole hour presentation on that. Somebody pay you a couple $100 to do that. They want to talk about the origin of the term religion and spirit. We wrote a whole book on the etymological origin of the word religion and spirit, and these are terms that you find in the Medut and Torah, the hieroglyphs of ancient Kemet. The origin of the term God, which is Ga, which is a title of Amen and Amenet in ancient Kemet. We show the whole philosophy as part of that 600-page book. So there are so many different things that you can teach about that people want to know. So they bring you out to bookstores and organizations and cultural events. But then even on the corporate side, they fund these different events. Martin Luther King holiday, Black History Month, Juneteenth is becoming popular now. Memorial Day is popular because they found out that Memorial Day was started by Black people who fought in the Civil War. They wanted to, honor their deceased warriors who fought for their liberation. It was called Decoration Day, and it was May 1st. And we were doing that every year. And then Europeans took over, changed the name to Memorial Day, put it at the end of May, and now it's a federal holiday. But it started off with Black people honoring their fallen warriors and warrioresses. It's an ancestral observance. People are finding that out now, so they're having Black Memorial Day celebrations. So all throughout the year, there are opportunities for you to use your degree to generate income, and you can do it part-time or some people full-time. We have a few people who are going through the bachelor's degree program right now. Enrollment is open now for the winter spring semester, so you can start when you go through that 42-week process. And some people can do it in less than 42 weeks. Some can do it in 21 weeks, but the maximum is 42 weeks. Some will do it in like 30 weeks. But you can have your bachelor's degree and you can immediately begin utilizing that to generate income for yourself and empowering our people at the same time. We don't just put anything out like a certification just so you can walk around acting like, you're deep or something, but it can't assist you economically. We show you immediately how you can immediately use this to generate income for yourself while you're empowering and healing our people. So, okay, so we need to end it here, but go to the website, sign up for the BOW course that's coming up Sunday, and you'll get the past 3. Because this is week 4, so you'll get the past 3. You have to catch up. I mean, you don't have to know it. Some people, if they just happen to learn about it Sunday and they jumped on Sunday, they're still going to benefit. But it'd be best if you, study the first 3 so you can be on track. If you want to order the book, please do so. Gift it to people and so forth. And the Medut and Toro courses, all of that is on the link you see on the screen. Okay. I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything else. Okay, so Yedase, we thank you for tuning in, and Yebeshabio, we will meet again. That's it.